I've got a crazy beginning. Kettner one day walks up to me and says, "Hey, how would you like to be a pro wrestler? You've got to be back next month because, see, this is not done yet." It was a crazy journey. It's almost like it was supposed to be. The key to life in the pro wrestling world is picking the greatest song ever. And the places came unglued. And I'm not saying they came unglued for me, but they came unglued for the moment. It's a crazy dream come true, man. A babyface is only as good as it heals their work. I wish there was another chapter with he and I. Every single match, I want people to drive home and go, they got that Cheetah guy, he was involved in the best match again. He just looked at me and said, "Fly, brother, fly." In the world of pro wrestling, it's all about giving to the crowd. And I may or may not have gotten kicked out of the University of Delaware my first year.
Call it how I see it, straight talk, no disguise. So the slang dripping, got the truth in my eyes. Might like gavel, every word, lay it down. Coach C in the booth, turn the game all around, yeah. It's Coach C, he the best for business. It's Coach C, he the best for business. Yeah, I'm sharp as attack when I call the play-by-play. Every dog got his day, and I make the crowd stay. It's every week we go live on a Wednesday. Dressing so sharp, that's a reason why your friends stay. The youngest in the game to do it, best for business. Coach C is the truth and everybody gonna witness. Love entertainment, you swear it's your destiny. Link with Coach C, we can talk about your legacy. It's Coach C, he the best for business. It's Coach C, he the best for business.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the channel. Another episode of Best for Business. This one I'm excited for. Cheetah Master, thank you so much for joining me for this one.
Man, I'm excited to do it. You and I have been kind of trading emails and texts forever, right?
Yeah.
But I appreciate you tracking me down. I look forward to it. I'm excited.
I'm excited for this one. Like I talk to anyone at ECWA, everyone always talks about the Cheetah Master. I'm curious from you, when it comes to pro wrestling, what was the thing about wrestling that even made you interested at first?
So I've got a crazy beginning.
Yeah.
So my family is from originally a little tiny coal mining town in Pennsylvania, Phillipsburg, Pennsylvania. It is in the middle of nowhere. My grandmother, God rest her soul, was like the matriarch, not just for our family, but for the whole town. Like she was the church lady. She was like this angelic soul. When she was the head nurse in the biggest employer in that area, which was the Phillipsburg Hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And when the girls would graduate from nursing school, a lot of them wouldn't have money to afford rent. So grandma would let them live with grandma and pop and until they had enough money, but they had to go to church and they had to do the chores. And my grandmother never cursed ever. So I wanted to paint a picture on who my grandmother was. Well, my first memory of pro wrestling was sitting on her lap watching the WWF and her and Pop, oohing and ahhing. And she would never say even darn. But when the bad guys would do something dastardly, she would go, "Oh, Michael." And that's my first memory. And so my church mom or my church grandmom was all about pro wrestling. And that's where it began.
Wow. So at a young age, you come across pro wrestling. How do you decide that this is something you've been interested in doing at first?
So I loved it. I loved pro wrestling really from grandmom on.
Yeah.
But it was unique because my family moved to Seaford, Delaware, another sticks town that has now since grown up. But at the time, we only had 2 channels.
Wow.
And so the only time I could see pro wrestling is when I went to my mom and pop's home.
Mm-hmm.
So something happened where I just couldn't get enough of it, but I could only see it 2 or 3 times a year. So as I grew older, I discovered Bill Apter's magazines. And at the time, if you could come up with 10 quarters, you could buy an Apter magazine.
Mm-hmm.
So I bought hundreds of them because you can always find quarters as a little boy, right?
Yeah.
And I would stack them up. And my strategy was that I would stack them in the same direction. So when I couldn't get the quarters or couldn't get a ride to the store, I would reread them and pull them from the bottom. And I read them beginning to end multiple times.
Yeah.
So as a little boy, for whatever reason, I thought, you know what, I want to be a pro wrestling promoter. Because I never thought, because pro wrestlers were bigger than life and I was not bigger than life. So I could be a promoter. So I thought it would be way cool to promote a big town or a little city, right? Mm-hmm. And oddly enough, years go by, I meet Jim Kettner and we do business in a big town / little city in Wilmington, Delaware. But as I grew older, until Jimmy Snuka showed up, I lost interest in pro wrestling. I still had my stack of magazines. I still read them, but it wasn't the same. And I may or may not have gotten kicked out of the University of Delaware my first year. So you're doing better than I,
Yeah.
clearly. So I knew I wanted to go back to school. My dad told me, listen, man, the only way you're going to go back to school is if you pay for it because all my scholarship opportunities are gone. My dad's like, dude, you screwed it up the first time. I'm not going to do it again. So I had to get a full-time job. So in a weird way, that full-time job led me to calling Jim Kettner asking for free tickets. So I worked in it at home for abused children. So I would reach out to Jim and say, "Hey man, can you give me free tickets?" And again, I didn't have any interest in wrestling.
Yeah.
I really hadn't watched it since Snuka, and he was kind enough to give me free tickets. So it was first come first serve, and I probably wasn't cool because I would get there really early because these kids I could get them in the front row,
Hmm.
and I used it as a behavior modification tool because a lot of these kids, God bless their hearts, didn't have a mom, a traditional mom and
Yeah.
dad. They didn't have a night out. So once a month, the kids who were the best behaved, I would take two staff and like four. We probably got six tickets. We get four youngins and two staff, and they got to have a pretty cool night out. We'd go to the wrestling match, maybe get some pizza, go home and go to bed, and it's as wholesome a night as they would get.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if it's a good thing or bad thing, but Kettner one day walks up to me, at like intermission. He goes, "Hey, how would you like to be a pro wrestler?" I'm like, "Dude, I don't want to be a pro wrestler. I'm working full time. I'm going to school full time. I was playing semi-pro baseball at the time." I'm like, "Dude, what are you?" No, I don't want to do that. And Jim, to his credit, was persistent. And I'm like, "No, no, no." And then one month he walks up to me and says, "Hey, listen, I know you're not interested in being a pro wrestler, but there's a sick little girl and she needs an organ transplant, and we're doing a benefit show for her. Would you be interested?" Well, what a dirty play, because who's going to say no? I don't
Yeah.
want to help a little girl, right? So I do it, and we did it in a way where I took the kids to the show. They had no idea what was going on. I brought an extra staff that day, so then at intermission I could sneak, went in the back, and I got with the guys. Again, I knew nothing.
Hmm.
And all of a sudden, the opening match of the second half comes on, and I come running out, and my kids come unglued because, like, what is happening, man?
Yeah.
So at the end of it, I'm getting dressed, and I go, "All right, guys, thank you," and I'm leaving. "Hey, man, thanks for everything. I'll see you down the road." They're like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa. You've got to be back next month because, see, this is not done yet." And then all of a sudden, 30 years later, I'm talking to you, and I'm going, "How?" I don't really know how it happened, but it
Yeah.
did.
Wow. How do
That's a
you
crazy
originally come
story.
across ECW and Kettner? Is it through the magazines?
No, there was dude, I'm way back, brother. I'm way back. We weren't in the Jim wasn't in the magazines then.
Okay.
It was I saw a flyer.
Okay.
Because it was the home I worked in is a state-run facility, and there wasn't extra money in the budget for activities. And as time went on, I got promoted to be an activity director. So I'm like, I gotta find an activity. And I called Jim, and he did it. And it really was, if you think about how I became whatever it is that I became, it was a crazy journey. It's almost like it was supposed to be,
Yeah. How
you
was
know?
that first match? You run through the curtain, you talk about the kids being absolutely amazed to see you walk through. For you, for a guy that originally said you were going to be a promoter, but then you do a match, how was that first match you have?
I was terrible. It was crazy exciting.
Yeah.
Um, I never even touched when I went into the ring that day. That was the first time I'd ever touched a ring. I had I you know it, the overwhelming majority of the moves that I've done the first time have been in front of the crowd. The first, but that really was the first time I didn't know how to get in the ring. I didn't know how to get out of the ring. I didn't know what the ring felt like. I mean, everybody thinks that the ring is a trampoline.
Yeah.
I'm like, son of a gun, this is not a trampoline.
Yeah.
So it was really crazy. But the guys that were there, Dr. Destruction and those guys, they looked after me and they carried me through everything. And I wasn't the Cheetah Master really. I think they introduced me as the Cheetah Master, but I was just some pale dude running out there who didn't know what he was doing. But they were sweethearts. They looked after me and they got me through.
Wow. How is the Cheetah Master born originally? What is the idea behind it?
Um, Again, it was crazy organic in that when Jim's like, all right, so you're gonna wrestle for this show for this little girl. I mean, you gotta have a name. Again, Jim schmoozed. I look back on it. Jim schmoozed me like a champ. Like he somehow went from me being in front row to being in the back with the boys.
Yeah.
But he's like, we got to get your name. Like, like, talk to me about like athletically. Like, what do you like? Who do you like? And I'm like, well, dude, athletically, I can jump. I can jump pretty high. I used to jump over car hoods for $20. That was like a game we would play. I'm like, I needed $20. All right, look, I'm gonna jump over this hood. You give me $20, and they would. So yeah, I could jump,
Yeah.
and I felt athletic. And Jim's like, well, who's your favorite wrestler? I'm like, Jimmy Snuka, no question. So then we kind of did the leopard print, and then we're like, and then you're fast, so we'll Cheetah. So we just can't call you Cheetah. The Cheetah Kid has already been done, and it just became Cheetah Master. So
Wow.
between he and I, it just became that. And then, as time went on, that character kind of matriculated through and became something really different, obviously, than that first incarnation of Cheetah Master.
Yeah. When you talk Cheetah Master, I gotta ask you, I don't even know if there's a secret or there's a way to talk about it. Everyone I've interviewed when it comes to the ECW era in general talks about that people could be over, but they were never Cheetah Master over. So for you, what was so special? How did you make it happen?
Easy, easy, man. The key to life in the pro wrestling world is picking the greatest song ever. If you can't get people excited for Welcome to the Jungle, oh my gosh, man. And it was really cool because the entrance, I wouldn't come out right away. I started doing this thing where I would be back in what they call the gorilla area. And like as the song's coming along, I would spit water really high and behind the curtain so they know it's coming. And dun 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 dun. You come out and the place just came unglued. And I'm not saying they came unglued for me, but they came unglued for the moment. That and there were multiple times where the entrance would last two songs. You know, I and again the music it was so I
And
we
that's a
went out
long one
there
too.
and there were times the place was going nuts and the song was coming down and I still hadn't given away my T-shirt yet. And Jim screaming, play it again," and they acted like it was again the song.
Wow.
And I did the shtick with giving out my shirt, and I communicated with the crowd. We would just talk the yeah and the who wants a shirt, and I would create this side versus that side. And we all know the story of marks, and you work off a crowd. And if I had this section over here was crazy loud, well, I'm going to really focus on them. And then I'm going to try to find the second loudest. And ideally, it's on the other
Opposite,
side.
yeah.
But even if it's not, I'm going to play off, and they're going to get pissed because my side's going to be because whoever's the loudest, they're going to get my shirt.
Hmm.
And I would do the kind of cartwheeling thing out and play to the crowd. Because listen, man, I, I think one of the keys to entertainment is understanding that people are coming there for a good time.
Hmm.
So everything I'm doing is to facilitate them, the crowd, having a good time. So I would ham it up. If I got some dude coming unglued, he's going to get the shirt because when I give it to him, he's really going to come on.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, all of a sudden we're in a fever pitch. And now the bad guy, gives me a dirty blow. And now they want to kill him because they're like, dude, this guy just gave me 5, 6 minutes of fun.
Wow. When you look at your career, you talk about originally you were going to do one match and then Jim asked you to keep doing it. Was there like a moment throughout your career that you realized like wrestling is going to be something you're going to continue doing? Because like you said, they asked you to come back to like finish a storyline, but was there a moment for you that you said like, oh, I want to do this now?
There were a couple moments
Yeah.
when I realized that it was different. Um, One, well, I'll answer your question, then I'll kind of segue into another area. But there was a moment when one of the things I miss most is before the bell, when you go to the back and everybody's taping up, we're kind of talking.
Hmm.
It's this. I love that moment. I miss it terribly when you go into the arena and then you hear the buzz of the crowd and the music's gone, but the boys are all together. And because as you get closer to bell time, I would just get more and more amped, and then it would just kind of build. But there was a time when I was in St. Matt's when I'm taping up, and I realized that I had become competitive, that I wanted to have whoever I was working with, we were going to have the best match of the show. And once I was able to kind of, in my mind at least, marry entertainment and competitiveness, I realized that I wanted to do this. And, again, it was organic because I was doing a favor, doing a favor, doing a favor. And then I guess I got the bug. And I wanted, when people drove home from St. Matt's or whatever arena we were in, I wanted them to drive home and go, oh man, that's, Reckless Youth and Cheetah Master, that match was that's, or whatever, right? I mean, that's what I was after. But there was another moment when we finally got on local TV, and everybody went to Jim's house, or went to his place to see it. Everybody's excited, and they only filmed, or only had a couple on TV, and mine was going to be one of them. And I remember I was excited to see it, and then I saw it, and I'm like, oh no! Like I knew that character wasn't remotely where it needed to be. And it was shortly before that moment that I realized I'm competitive and I want to be the best pro wrestler, the best version of Cheetah Master I could be. And it's shortly after that, I saw that on TV and I went, okay, we've got to make some changes. Because if I am going to be the best I can be, he can't look like that. He can't act like that. And he can't perform like that. So I made some very, very clear decision to make some changes.
Wow. You've mentioned his name so many times. Is there like a lesson or something that stands out just learning from Jim Kettner?
So, a lot of the lessons I learned from him were, the art of putting together a match.
Mm-hmm.
But then, where does that match go? And when you put together a card, when we would wrestle up in Pennsylvania with Blaine and Judd, a lot of times there would just be time to kill. So whether we drove together or we arrived in Pennsylvania, there would be a lot of just sitting around conversations about, well, this is what I would do for the opening match. And this is some of the characteristics I want for that match. And then it's building to this match. But, make sure that you've got a certain kind of match coming after intermission. All these things that I never thought about, but I just kept putting in my hip pocket to, so that I could use to increase the enjoyment of my matches. So there's tons.
And especially looking at your career, there's a few people I want to ask you about. The first, is there any moments with Lance Diamond? Because you start off early in your career having like a cage match, which people in pro wrestling like wish years and years after to have one. So for you, anything stood out about that match alone, or just Lance Diamond?
So Lance and I were interesting in that he certainly came before me.
Yeah.
And he was he carried me through that cage match because again, we came in around the same time, but he certainly was there before. He certainly had a lot more experience. And the cage match, that was crazy for me because again, I hadn't even touched a ring until I made my first. And now shortly thereafter, I'm in a cage match.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of like, oh, this is crazy. And it just harkens me back to the Bill Apter magazines. I'm like, this wasn't supposed to happen, but it's really cool that it is,
Wow. Especially for a guy that comes in for wrestling, you think you're going to have one match and then the career you've had. Who were like some of your biggest mentors when you first started, you'd say?
So it's amazing. Jim put me in, the ring with Pat Lance. Mm-hmm. Again, similar age. We came in a similar time, but he was way advanced than me. And then, he put me in the ring with Glenn, put me in the ring with Crowbar / Chris, with Ace Darling, all these guys with Superstar. So again, a lot of the times I did something for the first time, I did it in front of the crowd, but I was able to do it because the guys that Jim fed me, or he fed me to, however you want to look at it. But these guys had so much experience and they were able to teach me. It was like on the job training. There's so many of them. I mean, we could talk forever about Glenn. We could talk forever about Crowbar. Chris. I got scolded once with Chris So, but we just you work, you learn, and it's like Glenn. Glenn's younger than me, Glenn Osborne,
Yeah.
but he started at such an early age. And here's the Glenn Osborne story.
Yeah.
Again, I had no formal training, right? I didn't know the etiquette of the life. There's so many things I didn't know, and I learned all on the job. I don't remember whether we were filming a TV show, we were doing something,
Hmm.
but Glenn referred to the business as an art form. And I remember thinking to myself, my brother, wrestling is a lot of things, but it certainly is not an art form. And Glenn was passionate about it. He's like, it's this, it's that. And he talked about the theatrics and the story and this. And I remember thinking, that's really absurd. We're dudes oiled up in spandex jumping off things. Carnival, yeah. Art form, no. Well, I don't know when it occurred, but it wasn't shortly thereafter. It wasn't long after, I should say,
Hmm.
that I all of a sudden I realized that I was also viewing it as an art form. And as years went by, I go, Glenn, let me tell you something. And I shared that story that he said it. And when he said it, I thought he was crazy. But years later, I'm going, you're absolutely right. It's kind of theater in a, I don't know, rock and roll kind of way. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
And
there's,
especially,
no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
and I was going to talk about being an art form and everything for you, especially for loving pro wrestling at first, that being something that you never thought you were going to do at first. What did it mean to you to finally be ECWA heavyweight champ? Because you were a champ pretty early on. You were the guy of ECWA.
It was, I mean, I think so. When I talked about my mom,
Yeah.
right? I remember on TV, there was two really blonde haired guys. And I'm an old man, so I'm thinking they could be maybe the Graham brothers,
Yeah.
right? But there was a guy in black hair that was causing trouble the whole time. I just remember that. And as I look back, that easily, excuse me, could have been Captain Lou Albano.
Hmm.
Well, Captain Lou Albano, because of Jim Kettner, was my manager for a lot. I could tell you gazillion stories on
Yeah.
Captain Lou Albano, which are fantastic. So my mind is blown there. I'm reading and falling in love with pro wrestling, watching or reading Bill Apter magazines. Bill and I became friendly, and he actually had me come up to talk at his son's school. And then now all of a sudden, I win a championship belt, and I'm holding this belt, and I'm like, it's crazy. It
Yeah.
really it was just because I could recite historical info on pro wrestling like you can't imagine. Just because anything I could get my hands on, I would read and just I loved this that much.
Hmm.
So yeah, it was a mind blow for sure.
Yeah. What was it like just getting managed by Captain Lou and just having him for knowledge and anything?
He was he was such a wonderful, wonderful character. I mean, it was a crazy dream come true, man. The crowd. I mean, again, how do I not get over? I got Guns N' Roses. I run around like a lunatic, and Captain Lou Albano's out there with me.
Yeah.
Like it's just it doesn't. Like, how do you not succeed with that? And then Jim is feeding me legendary bad guys, just one right after another. How do you not get over, man? Because in the wrestling world, a baby face is only as good as the heels they're working with.
Hmm.
I mean, anybody worth their salt will tell you that. Like, if it is what it is. So again, you take a look at the list of the guys I got an opportunity to work with. It's a who's who, if not a Hall of Fame list right there.
Yeah. Who would you say brought the best out of Cheetah Master in the ring?
So those type of questions are asked a bunch, and there's no way I'm going to say, well, this person over that. There's
Yeah.
not a chance. But I got to tell you, I mean, you take a look at some of the feuds, some of the long lasting things that were just fantastic. I mean, Prince Nana was, everybody talks, well, not everybody, very often people talk about bad heat when it's heat, 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 and it becomes too good. Well, we had a storyline going about the bad guys, Prince Nana, Mega, and those guys came in and destroyed my gym. And then I recruited members of the gym, and it turned into this big storyline. And the place it was a loony bin, man. It was Jim is like, settle it down, because it was just fantastic. The crowd did exactly what we wanted. And Lance, fantastic. He and I, from a yin and yang perspective, I look, I think I wish there was another chapter with he and I
Mhm.
because we came in around the same time. He's dark hair, I'm blonde hair. He's short hair, I'm long hair. He's ground, I'm aerial. He comes into Pomp and Circumstance. I come into Guns N' Roses. He comes in a suit and tie. I got some ridiculous outfit on. Like we were the perfect,
Yeah, match. Yeah.
absolutely. But and then you go to the other end of the spectrum where you've got Irish Mickey who transformed into Ooh La La,
Yeah.
and I have so many Ooh La La stories. A lot of them were at PCW where. So yeah, he was just a hoot because typically you go in the locker room, you greet everybody, make sure everybody's good. You go talk and then you go over whatever you want to go over. He and I
Mhm.
didn't go over anything ever. And one time we're in Pennsylvania and he says, "Hey, what do you think?" Because everybody looks at him as this like cartoon character of a comedic performer, and he still does it today. And he blew my mind because he would do the exact same striptease every single show, and it popped the same every single show. It was unbelievable.
Wow.
But one day he looks at me and he goes, "Hey man, what are your thoughts? You want to do an Extreme Rules match?" And Cheetah Master, ooh la la, Extreme Rules. That doesn't even think about that. It's going to be the crowd that ooh this and that. And I'm like, "Yeah, man, that'd be fun." So we went and talked to the guy in charge. I think it was Judd at the time, and he had the crowd so worked up. I had to pull him out of the crowd because the crowd was like kicking him and punching him. So there's just been so many instances where I've had a chance to do things with guys that, like Glenn Osborne, man, he would get the crowd in an absolute tizzy, and he brought out a part of me. I guess what I'm getting at is these guys would bring out different parts of me, but throughout it all, I feel like we were able to give the crowd a really good match.
Yeah. I mean, when you talk Cheetah Master, you've had a storied career in ECWA. How does PCW come about for you?
Jim and Blaine DeSantis was a buddy of Jim's, and they put together a school, WrestleTech. It was in Ogletown, not far
Yeah.
from here. So, we had an agreement that, I would only work for Jim or Blaine. And so there was a very similar amount of talent or similar talent in each. But Blaine would have a slightly different cast because he could bring in some of the guys from Connecticut and New York because it was up in the mountain towns in PA.
Hmm.
We filmed TV and quite a bit, and that's a hoot. We filmed TV shows, and a buddy of mine called me once. He's like, "I'm in Hawaii, and I just saw a Cheetah Master match against, I don't know who it was, but yeah." So here we go. I've an Allentown story. I don't talk much pro wrestling, so you and I having this conversation, all of a sudden this
Yeah,
match is
absolutely. Yeah.
firing again. So Jim got us connected with Afa, the Samoan.
Hmm.
This was probably before PCW. So we're filming TV, and this might have been the first TV I've ever filmed. And I got to tell you, I'm an old school guy, so me talking like and breaking the kayfabe rules freaks me out still, but
Yeah.
I'm doing it. So you wrestle 4 or 5 times. It's a long TV shoot. They cut it up. They turn it into a month's worth of programming. We did that with Alpha in Allentown,
Hmm.
fairly regular basis. And I think it was Pat. Like he would have been Lance Diamond at the time.
Yep.
And I ended up winning. No, I ended up losing. We'll say 15 minutes for whatever happened.
Yep.
And so we come back. Hey, you okay? You're okay. I'm good. Now I'm changing. I'm getting ready for the next. And all of a sudden, the show stops. And I don't believe I ever had the opportunity, the pleasure to meet Sika, the Samoan, but
Hmm.
I had worked with Alpha quite a bit. Sweetheart of a guy, welcomed us all into his family, loved the guy. But at the same, he can be incredibly intimidating and scary.
Yeah.
The show stops, and I hear this screaming from afar, And I remember thinking, man, I hope he ain't looking for me. And then as the screams get louder and louder, he's like, Cheetah, Cheetah, where the hell is Cheetah? He didn't say hell. He used more colorful words.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh no, man, I'm in trouble. And I don't know why I'm in trouble. So he looks at me and he says, come here. And he screams at me and he makes me go into the locker room, or not in the locker room, into the shower. And I'm like, oh, this is not good. Not good.
Yeah.
So not only is it not good, but he walks in and I'm immediately trying to figure out how I can put my back to the entrance so I can get out.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't know. I walk in and he's blocking. I'm like, I am going to get killed by Alpha the Samoan right now.
That's crazy.
So he's like, why did you lose? You're going to be my champion. Why did you lose? I'm like, I was told to. And he goes, who told you? And at that moment, I don't remember who it was. The gentleman walked by. I go, that dude right there. I told, man. He turns around, starts screaming at him, and then he comes to me and goes, go get Lance. Do it again. So no more. All of a sudden, they call us back out there. We go out there. I win with a big dive. And then he scolded me again after because he got everybody together for dinner. He said, how can you be my champion if you lose tonight? And I'm like, I'm just trying to be a good soldier. I was just doing what I was told. But
wow.
Yeah, after the Samoan, I thought I was going to die.
Wow. And then when you look at your career, some of the people you got to wrestle, like just for instance, is there anything that stood out? You did a match, I think, did you wrestle Steve Corino and you teamed with Billy Kidman or the other way around? Like, that's just nuts in general.
Oh, I mean, I worked through it. I remember when Billy Kidman came up, and then all of a sudden he explodes, and he's on national TV,
Yeah.
and there's so many guys. Billy Kidman was an absolute sweetheart. Steve Corino was wrong. I remember his son's name's Colby.
Yeah.
I may very well have held Colby because Colby, they were always at the shows.
Yeah.
I vividly remember Colby as an infant. He doesn't obviously remember me from whatever, but yeah, I mean, what's Steve doing now? Is he still in the business? You know?
He's a producer, right? He helps with NXT.
Awesome.
Yeah.
If you run into him, I let him know I asked about him, and I've watched from afar for many years. He's had a wonderful career.
Yeah. And then one of the matches I want to ask you about, you wrestled for the NWA North American Heavyweight title. You wrestled as you, Diamond, and Reckless Youth. Is there anything that stood out from that one challenging for it?
So at the time, like, again, I'd never wrestled in a three-way.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
So, just it was like all over again. I'm like, well, here we go.
Yeah.
I'm going to do my first three-way, and I'm going to do it, at one of the biggest events, I may ever work. And Reckless Youth, I got a chance to see him this past year, and I pulled him aside and I go, Tom, I never told you this, but I think if there's anybody that should be kind of just bitter, not because I don't know that he got screwed, but bitter that it's just wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah.
If you take a look at wrestlers, how many people stole ideas from him and went on to go on national television and do it, and you were the original, you were the guy.
Mm-hmm.
And, I couldn't compliment him enough. I mean, he was amazing. He was absolutely amazing. And we shared great conversation. I enjoyed Tom a lot. He's a great dude. But it was, again, I had to pinch myself. But bless those guys, because I'd never been in a three-way. I go, listen, you're going to have to hold my hand a little bit because I don't want to stink this up. Again, every single match, I want people to drive home and go, that Cheetah guy, he was involved in the best match again.
Wow.
So they held my hand and they pulled me through.
Wow. And then when you talk about names, some of them are so unique. Like, just for instance, wrestling Honky Tonk, man, what was that one like?
So I got a scar on my arm from his guitar.
Wow.
So when I tell people, I go, oh, I got to wrestle Honky Tonk, man. Because if memory serves me correctly, I was the champ at the time, and he came in and wrestled me, and somebody came in and schmozzed it, and he hit him in the head with the guitar, and he spun around and he cut my arm, so I get to go, hey, see that scar right there? That's the Honky Tonk, man.
Wow.
I mean, he was so easy. I mean, that's the thing about those guys. They're so good. They understand what to do, where to be, and what time you want to do it. And, I tried just to sit back and kind of enjoy that ride with them. Last thing I wanted to do was overstep my boundaries. I'm like, sir, you tell me what you want to do, and I'm going to go out there and do my very best.
Yeah.
So here's speaking of legendary names,
Yeah.
Jimmy Snuka, my favorite at the time. And we all know Jimmy's situation, sadly, and God bless the
Yeah.
girl's family. It's being my favorite. It's obviously an uncomfortable topic at times,
Yeah.
but later on in his career, we were wrestling in Ellesmere, and I looked at the board. And although we all know that wrestling isn't fixed, but I felt really good that I was supposed to win my match at the 10, 15-minute mark with a dive.
Mm-hmm.
One of the main events, one of the ladder matches, I think, of the card.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh no, because Jimmy's on this card. And I may have even wrestled Lance that night. And I walk up and I go, Lance, there's no way in God's green earth that I'm going to go do that dive on the same card that Jimmy's going to do that dive. I'm just not going to do it. I'll take my heat. Jim or whomever, they'll be mad at me for a little bit, but I can't do that, right?
Yeah.
So I think it was Pat. I think Pat goes, why don't you go over there and talk to him about it? I look at him, and he doesn't look like he was talking. So I go, I don't know that that's a good idea. He's like, I know, but I think you should. So I'm like, you know what? You're right. So I walk over, and he's sitting in the corner all by himself, and his hair is down in his face, and he had a cigarette in his hand, and he's down like this. And I walk up, and I don't know if I sat next to him or kneeled, but I certainly wanted to respect his space. And I said, excuse me, Mr. Snuka, my name is Mike, and I wrestle as a Cheetah Master, and I want you to know that the promoter wants me to go over with the dive that I've emulated from you. And I want you to know I'm not going to do it. I'm gladly going to take the heat from the promoter, but I just want you to know I would never do that. And I just thank you for really giving me that move. He didn't give it to me, but I stole it. But I was trying to word it in a gentlemanly way. And he kind of, that pregnant pause that lasts too long. And I'm going, boy, I'm really uncomfortable right now. This is not good.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, he takes a draw from the cigarette, puts it down, looks up at me barely, and then stares at me, and he just says, fly, brother, fly. And he put his head back down. And I'm staring. I'm like, I think we had a good talk. I don't know. I don't feel comfortable right now. So I walk over, and Lance goes, hey, how'd that go? I go, he just looked at me and said, fly, brother, fly. So then he looks at me and goes, well, you better fly, then. He smacks me on the back, and off he goes. So I flew that night, and it all worked out. But again, it's just another one of the great stories.
Mm-hmm.
Guy's tough, but
yeah,
great stories from the road.
And especially when you look at your career, everyone talks about the ECWA, but especially nowadays, something that still holds up, the signature Super 8. For you being a part of that first ever tournament, I think it was the crown, was it the TV championship or something at the time? Yeah. For you to be a part of the first ever tournament, what was that atmosphere like? Because obviously nobody knew it would become the signature, the tournament that it became.
I remember that night being a fun night, right? It was fun. It's going to be cool. But yeah, nobody had any appreciation for what it would become, the names that would come through. How many? I mean, you could just really, that is a who's who.
It's
of
insane.
Stars that was on that tournament at some point. But at the time, we didn't know. But, with all due respect to ECW, our events at St. Matt's were unreal. On the Hack Eye and all those guys that are on ECW, they sat in our row first, as far as I'm concerned. We saw them. They were regulars all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I would show up before the shows, and the lines to get in would go out to Route 141. We broke the fire code gazillion times. We sold out consecutively. I mean, man, years on. It was ridiculous. And the crowd, the heat, the environment. The entrance song is being played twice, for heaven's sake. That's crazy. It was it was insane. So having an event like that, made sense. I mean, the crowds are unbelievable. And
How was that first tournament for you?
it was fun. I mean, everything was so new to me at that point. You know, it really was like, okay, this is what we're doing, and I was in awe a lot because again, I those guys have been doing it, and I truly a lot of the things like, can you do a monkey flip? I'm like, I think I can. So overwhelming at times.
Hmm.
So, but I didn't have an appreciation for what the Super 8 would be for sure.
Yeah.
You know, there's no doubt. I just didn't know.
Is that the first time in your career you wrestled multiple matches in a night? I think 3 back to back.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. But that
Wow.
would just again just be a long list of firsts, you know.
Yeah.
And again, I did it. Yeah.
How was it sharing the ring with Jim Kettner?
That that was that was so much fun because
Yeah.
that storyline just took off like crazy. You know, the master, again, we go back to how good are you? You're as good as your heels.
Mm.
So Jim and I, baby faces, and we've got Glenn and the master. How do you mess that up?
Yeah.
You don't, right? And so they got me with Guns N' Roses, and then the fans got Jim, the elder statesman, who, you know, they love because of this program. And then the storyline, it becomes intertwined, and the place was insane. It was just, it was maddeningly loud.
Wow.
I wish people could just experience that crowd one time.
Hmm.
It was bananas.
And
It
then
was
when I ask you
bananas.
about names, I was looking at your career. Like you said, there's so many people you got to wrestle. It's mind-boggling. For you, how is the experience? I haven't had anyone to ask about this wrestling Bam Bam.
So I saw that.
Yeah.
Are you sure I wrestled Bam
It
Bam?
said Bam Bam Bigelow. Yeah.
I don't think I did. I would
Oh,
love to tell you that it was amazing.
yeah.
I would love to talk about it. I worked with him, but he
Okay.
and I never did a match.
How was it working with him?
He was fantastic. I mean, we shared a locker, and he was wonderful. He
Nice.
treated me like I was a star. But no, I never had a chance to wrestle with him in a match. I've worked alongside of. So here's a Road Warrior story.
Yeah.
So Hawk, Mike, we were somewhere, and with that gruff voice, nobody knew my real name. Nobody knew I was Mike. Cheetah, come here. Cheetah,
Yeah.
come here. So he comes over, or I go over to him, and he asked me about a bodybuilding thing, like building your upper chest. And I wanted to just to scream, and I wanted to say, "Hey, everybody! Road Warrior Hawk asked me about a weightlifting question."
Yeah.
I'd made it at that point,
Yeah.
but you know, he was, you know, man, I don't recall if I was ever in a match with him or not.
Yeah. It's PWA. You wrestled Bam Bam Bigelow on February 17th, 1998. The main
Oh,
event was
he
Bodyguard for Hire against Devin Storm. He beat you by DQ.
son of a gun. Beat me. Maybe he beat me senseless, and I just don't remember. I don't.
Like the match before, Brian Knobs against Lance Diamond. Guido was on the card. Like, pretty
Guido,
good card.
yeah, all those guys. That one might be made up, my friend. I don't know. I'm sorry. I hope I didn't
Don't worry.
disappoint, but
You talk about Hawk asking you about fitness. Is fitness always a part of your career or something you want to be involved in?
so it's interesting that you bring that up because I talked about the time I saw myself on TV.
Yeah.
The thing that struck me so much was how bad I looked on TV.
Hmm.
And I drove home from that event thinking, okay, I need to fix this. Because I was always a gym guy
Hmm.
and I knew I wanted to open a gym. So yes, it's been a part of my life since I was 18 years old.
Wow.
But when I saw myself on TV, I actually essentially built the fitness plan for myself that I now use with my clients and my athletes
Hmm.
because I remember thinking I do not look good. I'm not big, I'm soft, I'm pale, and I've got no muscle. This is a bad combination if you want to be a successful wrestler. So I realized I got to figure out what I'm eating. So I started writing down everything I put in my mouth, and I did it for 3 weeks. And I looked at it and I went, "That's why I look the way I do. I don't eat so well." So that's an exercise that I incorporate with a lot of my clients. So yes, a very long-winded answer, but fitness has been a part of my world since I was 18. I've been in the fitness industry for 30 plus years. I've built multiple gyms and I've trained a whole bunch of very, very, very cool folks.
Wow. So you're doing everything with fitness. You've accomplished a lot in wrestling. When is the time that you decide that Cheetah Master might retire when it comes to wrestling?
Well, so, but you don't, do you? I mean,
Yeah,
does
when did
anybody
the idea of
really
like
ever?
stopping come
No,
originally?
nobody ever really retires. I
Yeah.
mean, God rest Terry Funk. He's probably still wrestling in heaven, man.
Yeah.
I, it just became, I guess it just became time. I got a chance later on. JJ had Right Coast Pro, and we got together, and he had a really nice thing there. This is after Jim, of course, and uh, he had some things, and then COVID. Well, that just ended things.
Mhm.
COVID, if you think about it, man, how old were you during COVID?
I was a freshman in high school.
It's crazy if you look back on it. You're like, it was weird times, man.
Yeah, especially like for
So
me, when I went to high school, I went to like an all boys school. We had to wear suits to school every day and all that. So like getting that out, and then like when I had class on Zoom, we had to wear polos and all that. So it was just a wild time.
it is wild, man.
Yeah.
It is wild. So yeah, JJ never reopened after COVID. So yeah, I guess I'm a true pro wrestler. I never really retired.
Wow. So I gotta ask you nowadays. I know you're doing a lot with fitness. What is Cheetah Master up to nowadays?
It's so I've got an opportunity I've been training college kids, although I stepped away last year, but for years I trained college folks. And although I don't wrestle and I don't talk about it, every now and then one of my college people would be like, Coach, can I ask you a question? And I go, sure. And I know exactly where this is going. And my son is a high school student locally, and he plays sports. And again, you're driving home, and every once in a while he'll say, Dad, so and so saw you on YouTube or saw you on Google or whatever. And I go, well, there you have it. So Cheetah Master doesn't do anything anymore, but I rehash a few stories now and then. But I've got a small studio now that I train. That's where I'm sitting right now with Sonny, the rock and roll rescue dog. She's at my feet.
Mhm.
And I've been married for 122 years, it seems. I've got a little boy who's not little anymore. He's 17.
Wow.
And interestingly enough, he doesn't have any interest in pro wrestling.
Wow.
When people walk up and talk to me about it, he kind of rolls his eyes. Oh, yeah. Dad used to do that. He used to do this.
So is there
So
ever any room for one more Cheetah Master match, you think?
I'm not. So here's what's crazy about being old.
Yeah.
As I sit here, I feel like I did when I was the Cheetah Master. I feel like I could do it all.
Hmm.
I know beyond a shadow of a doubt I can't, but man, it would be a lot of fun. It would be a
Wow.
lot of fun.
What is the
But
last thing you do? Is it Right Coast Pro, or did you do something for ECWA Reunion when they had it with Jim?
yeah, I got together with we did the reunion. So Right Coast Pro um, just before COVID, and then we got together with the reunion at the Boys Club. So I think maybe so Kenny J.R. Ryder,
Yeah.
he and I we're doing a thing for yeah, Kenny. So I ripped my shoulder with him. So lovingly we blame each other for him ripping my labrum, and he swears I blew out his ACL in Right Coast Pro. So
Wow.
if you ever get a chance to him, tell him Cheetah's mad about his shoulder.
What did you do for the ECWA reunion?
We just made an appearance. I said some things, and I was involved in some a schmaz there. It was a lot of fun. It was great seeing those guys. Like that's when I pulled Reckless Youth aside, and Pat was there with the son. There were so many guys that I mean, I haven't seen Blue Thunder in 100 years. I mean, there's so many guys. I mean, Freak Nasty. There's 1,000 names that I can name that I feel like I just want to rattle them all off because I don't want them to think that they weren't special to me and they weren't important because it's all those vegetables that make the soup right. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
That might be
Cheetah.
the first time that pro wrestling has ever been compared to or metaphorically described through soup. So
Well, Cheetah, I can't thank you enough. Like I said, as soon as I interviewed the Chick Magnets and they were telling me about the Cheetah Master and there's no one as over as you,
those guys are fantastic. How are they? Are they doing well?
that was great. Yeah, Mike's in Florida right now. He's loving it. I talk to
Yeah,
Mozart all the
yeah,
time. He's still killing the rest of ECWA. And Brian, he's
yeah.
doing insane things for Bare Knuckle.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. I'm afraid of bare knuckle. I'm soft, man.
Well, he's like between fights, he goes on the mic. He could still work a crowd. He,
Oh,
like you does,
yeah.
goes to one side, then the other. Who wants a T-shirt? It's
Yeah,
great.
yeah. You got to keep everybody happy, man.
Yeah. Well, Cheetah, I can't thank you enough, but the day you decide it's all done in wrestling, I know you say retirements don't exist, but the day you decide it's all done, what do you want the Cheetah Master's legacy in pro wrestling to be?
I can't remember what pro athlete. It may have been Cal Ripken. It may have been Cal. A reporter once said, "Cal, hey, how do you want the fans to remember you?"
Hmm.
And I was moved by his answer. He said, "If I'm lucky enough to be remembered at all, I'm a happy man." And although I know that we'll never be back in St. Matt's where that noise was deafening,
Yeah.
but it would be great for somebody to go, "Oh yeah, you should have been back in the day. There was this guy named Cheetah Master. Man, he was something."
Wow.
That would be a cool way to be remembered. But at the end of the day, if they remember me at all, I'm in, man. I'm in.
Yeah.
But it really in the world of pro wrestling, it's all about giving to the crowd. Well, I remember, who was it? Somebody asked me many times, what's your there's got to be a trick. What's your trick to getting over? I'm like, it's easy. Just listen to the crowd. If they like it, do more of it. If they're silent, don't do that anymore. And they looked at me like I don't know, like it was oversimplified,
Hmm.
but it's the truth, isn't it? If I go crazy with my t-shirt and they're eating it up, well, I'm going to do that for minutes on end.
Yeah.
If I do something and they're sitting on their hands, well, I'm not going to do that anymore. So I just gave them a whole lot of this and none of that. So you got to just give to the crowd. You give, they will give it back.
Wow. Cheetah, I can't thank you enough. Like I said, I'm 21, and the fact that I'm over here talking to you and learning your story, thank you so much for doing this.
Well, my friend, I appreciate it. You're doing really fun things, and I appreciate you taking time to interview me. So thank you.
Absolutely. Maybe down the line, you have a storied career. You might need to do a part 2 or something.
I got more stories, man. There's a whole bunch of them.
Nice. Let's do it, definitely. Thank you so much for doing this.
All right, my friend.
And
Stay well.
Thank you for everybody for watching this episode. This was Best for Business.
Thank you for watching this episode of Best for Business. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, because this is Best for Business.